Mayor Gradisar is going to go first. Okay?
Ready?
Ready.
Thanks. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. I was telling Mike, I think the last time I spoke to the realtors was in 2019, shortly after I became the mayor and right before the pandemic hit. So it's good to be out here and enjoy a meal with you while we are in this low spot in the pandemic. I just want to talk about a couple of things that are going on in the city of Pueblo. Then Wade and Andrew will tell you what you really want to hear about. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was a housing study that the city and county just completed last fall. I don't know how many of you have seen that or if any of you have seen that housing study, but it was very enlightening. And it really is important to this community because it's an economic development issue. You know, and being realtors, that houses are going like hotcakes right now. We really have a housing shortage here. This study sort of identified that. It was in the works long before this boom sort of hit Pueblo, but there were some interesting takeaways for me, at least, as I saw that housing study. Number one, it obviously related housing to economic development, because if you don't have housing, people can't come here for jobs. There's no place for them to live. We're experiencing a little bit of that right now with the construction project at Everest, you know, and people coming in and trying to find a place to live. But this study says that if there's insufficient market rate housing available, that the higher income buyers will compete at the lower tiers. So that causes prices to go up for everybody. So when we talk about increasing the housing, you can really sort of help affordable housing or those lower tiers of housing if you build some high-end housing, because then the people who can afford that high-end housing will move into that high-end housing rather than competing for some of that middle-tier housing or those kind of things. So I thought that was sort of interesting. They concluded that new homes in the, at the top end will increase the supply in the middle tiers of housing because you won't have those people competing for it. And they suggested that for every 100 market rate houses that you build, there'll be 45 to 50 homes that open up in the below median income tiers. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because when we talk about trying to get some affordable housing going, usually we're talking about trying to subsidize housing in some fashion. But it turns out, I think, if you build some upper-end housing, people will move into that housing and make some of this lower income or middle-tier housing available. So I thought that was interesting. Happy to send you a copy of that if anybody wants a copy of that housing study. I think it'll help developers. It concluded that basically we're in the next 10 years going to be 9,500 housing units short in the city and county of Pueblo. So that's something that we've got to really work on. One of the things that we're doing since I became the mayor, we've talked about trying to make it easier to do business in the city of Pueblo. Last year we opened up an electronic permitting system, sort of a slow start to that. And I think in February it really went live. Pueblo Place, it's called. And right now it's just the city of Pueblo and Pueblo Regional Building on it. But you can go to that website and get any licenses that you need through the city of Pueblo, whether they're liquor licenses renewed or marijuana licenses, any kind of license you need from the city of Pueblo, you can go to that electronic portal. And also it will connect you with regional building. The plan is, and you know that we've been working on this Pueblo Means Business project that's going to be located in the bottom floor of the Wells Fargo building. But part of that will be a portal where Pueblo West, the county, the city, regional building will all be on the same website, where you can go in there and put in the address of your project and tell them what you want to do, and it'll direct you to wherever you need to be, regional building, Pueblo West, the county, or the city. So we're hoping that that will really make it a lot easier for people to work and to do developments in the city of Pueblo. I indicated to you there are 9,600 housing units needed over the next 10 years. 45% of those, it's estimated, will be needed for workforce housing. We've got new subdivisions in the city of Pueblo going in all over town. I think the planning department, and Wade would know better than I, is working on 3 or 4 subdivisions right now of people that want to come in here. We've got them going in on the west side. NeighborWorks is building an affordable housing project over there. On the north end, the south side, Best Story Ranch is coming on board again. And there are some other discussions taking place with respect to the Jackson Ranch that just changed hands. Some developers in Colorado Springs have acquired that, and they're looking at annexing that into the city of Pueblo and making that available for some housing. So some great things are happening, but you know, our job as employees of the city is to try to push them along and make it as easy as possible for those things to happen, because we have a big need here. Mike and I were talking a little bit before the meeting started. One of the things we've got coming up this fall is the public safety tax. You know, when you look at situation and when people are looking at a community, one of the things you look at is, you know, what's going on with crime in the community. Pueblo, I think, sometimes gets a bad rap. The last couple of years have been pretty tough on us in Pueblo. Last year we set a record for the number of homicides in the city of Pueblo, 29 homicides. Usually it's 18 or 19. This was a lot higher last year. Not much that the police department can do about homicides, because they're usually people in some kind of relationship that are, you know, shooting and killing each other. But crime, otherwise, the last couple of years has been on the rise. I attribute a lot of that to COVID. Before COVID, our crime rate in Pueblo was actually going down, because we had passed this public safety tax, which created a fund with which to hire police officers. So we were going to be able to hire and have certified police officers, 214 certified police officers that we could get out there and you know, really combat crime. We're making an effort to get there. We never really got to the 214 just because of retirements and people changing and those kind of things. There's a big rotation, but we've got 4 police academies going this year that we're trying to bring people in. It's become very hard over the last couple of years, last 18 months, to attract people who want to be police officers because of what's going on, not in Pueblo, but what's going on around the country. You know, and some of the things that the legislature's done to expose police officers to some personal liability, taking away some of their immunity, has made it tougher for us to attract people. So, but I wanted you to be aware of the fact that this public safety tax, which is 0.2%, last year it collected $4.6 billion, is going to be on the ballot, I hope, this fall, to be renewed for another 5 years. That will allow us to continue trying to get these, the police force up to its maximum capacity. Now we're not at maximum capacity, but it's not because we don't have funds to hire them. It's because we're having a hard time attracting people to be police officers. So we're trying to be creative. As I say, we've never had 4 police academies in 1 year. They're smaller, but we want to try to bring them on as quickly as we can so that we can deal with this crime situation before it gets too far out of control. And that public safety tax can only be used for the new officers and their equipment. As I say, before COVID, it was making a difference in our community, and since then it's been a little tougher. So I want to leave you, and I'm happy to answer questions. We'll all stick around and answer questions, but just want to leave you with, you know, what a terrific place I think the city of Pueblo is in. You know, our sales tax last year, after this pandemic, set a record. We were up 27% in the city of Pueblo in terms of our sales tax collections. A lot of reasons for that. I think those federal stimulus dollars that they put in people's pockets, they spend it. They didn't spend it on European vacations. They spent it on taxable goods and services to a large extent. And that obviously benefits the city of Pueblo when that happens. Last fall, we debruced so that the voters in this community did away with that part of Tabor that puts a limit on the amount that government can collect and spend. Still, if we want to raise taxes, the voters have to vote on that, have to approve any tax increase, which is why this public safety tax will be on the ballot, because voters have to approve any new taxes. But Tabor also would say, even if you don't raise taxes, if because of increased economic activity you collect more money than this formula allows you, then you have to refund that to people. So we got debruced, so we get to keep at least all the money that's generated from the economic activity in the city of Pueblo, and we can put that to use. And you know that we committed $10 million this year to that #1 concern of citizens, that's the rebuilding of roads. And Andrew can talk about that if you want to. He knows which roads those are, and Andrew knows that if we don't spend $10 million this year on roads, somebody's going to be in trouble, and that's his department, so he's the one that's going to be in trouble. And so he's working hard to get that done. We've also been fortunate in the city of Pueblo. We're getting $36 million of ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act money. We've already got 18.3 million was put in our bank account last May. We're expecting the other 18.3 million to come in this May. There's some recent talk that Congress might try to claw that back, that second half payment. We hope that doesn't happen in Pueblo, because we've got a lot of projects that weren't funded in the first round that we might like to take a look at and fund in the second round. But we haven't done anything, and I told people we're not going to do anything until we get that money and it hits the bank account. But we still are trying to push some money out. We have spent a lot of money in the city of Pueblo dealing with some of the problems that people have had in terms of food insecurity, homeless people, putting homeless people to work, picking up trash, trying to do all those kind of things and meet some of those needs in the community. So we probably have spent all or committed all but about $3 million of that first 18 million. And we're still working on that. There's some projects that are working on the west side that we've got an inadequate sewer system in, that we're thinking that with the growth that's going to happen on the west side, some of those sewer systems are going to have to be upsized. And our ordinances say that if that's the case, if you put a development in and the sewer system downstream has to be upsized, that's on you. And that's a pretty tough thing to sell to a developer. That's one of the reasons why some of our development has been slower, I think. So I'm hoping that with some of this money, we'll be able to put in some of that infrastructure, even if we just advance it and can collect part of it later from these developers that come online. But the city's probably going to have to advance some of that money. And I think frankly, that's a good use of the money to help that neighborhood and to generate that economic activity and get more customers there. So with that, I'm going to stop and let, who's next? Is it Wade's going to go next? He's going to talk about brownfields, I think, and the brownfields grant we got for downtown and around.
Yep.
Go ahead, Wade.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'm nowhere near as exciting as the mayor's talk, but, but it might be useful for some of you. So my name is Wade Broadhead. I'm a senior planner. I do a lot of the current planning and as well as the historic preservation. So if you have buyers looking for older houses and want to landmark them or something like that, they talk to me and I can help you out with. There's some benefits for that. So the brownfields is a grant we got from the EPA, a couple $100,000 to do assessments. It's not to go in and clean up. The EPA doesn't have a very good probably reputation anywhere, but they've really kind of come around to becoming this redevelopment agency now, and they put these huge grants out. Fremont County just finished up with one, and now we're in the middle of one. They want to help see properties that are assumed to be contaminated, or the contamination is like holding up the sale or development of the property, get that cleared out so that property can then come back online and get sold and get developed into anything. And mostly we focus on commercial properties, but I think we could probably do residential if it was a mixed. But so the basis of this program, I've got like another year and a half, I think, on the grant. Any commercial property can basically kind of contact me. I have my card here, and they can kind of talk to the city about doing phase 1s and phase 2s. And if you've ever had a sale that had to deal with a commercial property, you may have run into phase 1s and phase 2s. And they're basically a consultant comes out and makes sure there aren't storage tanks, there wasn't an old laundromat there. There's a bunch of different things that can contaminate the ground in the building. And so generally those things aren't horrendously expensive, but they're a couple $1,000. And so if you can come talk to the city and we can kind of go through and see if it's a good match for the grant, and then we have a consultant that we've hired, and the consultant could end up doing the work and kind of figuring out your phase 1 and phase 2. So it could save you a couple $1,000, and it could maybe help a property get cleared that was thought dirty, or a property that maybe actually is dirty. Our consultants are amazing. They're out of Ohio, so they have the most experience of anybody in the world on the kind of brownfields things that happen there in the Midwest, and they're really talented. So we've got this like 3-person on call that I've learned a lot from. Now I'm getting to my skill set's kind of coming up and kind of figuring this stuff out. But so we really targeted downtown, because you see, everybody loves historic downtown in Pueblo, but we want more downtown living down there. We want more restaurants, more shops and stuff like that. All of those buildings have like a little bit of asbestos, or they've got this or that. And so the grant was written with the idea of like, let's get our older part of our town kind of back online. Let's get housing back. Let's get all sorts of different uses back. And so at first we didn't have a lot of success. I went and talked to Sean and Rocky Mountain Realtors, because their office is right down there. And so part of me coming here is just talking. You guys manage the built environment, and so you guys know more of what's going on than any city planner does. So I always like to come and talk to you guys to go back out and share this, because you're dealing with commercial sales all the time. But we've had some success now. Keating has a developer. They actually checked his background. He's done stuff in Kansas City and Denver, and looking at turning it into mostly apartments, but there may be a commercial use there. And so we were going to help them do an existing building survey. So there's phase 1s and phase 2s. And then if you've got a big historic building, there's almost always some type of contamination. So this grant can kind of help figure out, if you're contaminated and where and what parts. And then sometimes it's just encapsulation, so you just put flooring over it or you paint over it, and sometimes you got to take it out. So this grant could also help you if you have some of that information and you think you can't do anything with your property. There's some planning money in there that we can bring these consultants in and kind of figure out how to move forward. So that's really it. And so we're working at St. Patrick's Church. It's been vacant for a long time. And so we're talking to Catholic Charities. They're looking at maybe doing offices or trying to at least figure out what they can do with that property. And it's old historic building that had another addition. So there's all sorts of issues they got to look at there. And then we're looking at some other properties downtown. So we're finally starting to get some people to come to us. But if you've got properties, especially commercial properties, especially downtown, reach out to the city's planning department. I mean, again, my name's Wade, and I'll leave some cards. And you can just come contact me, and we kind of work through with the consultants if your good property is a good match for this grant. So that's the short of it. If anybody have any questions?
We'll take questions out.
Okay.
Let me just add that these grants are hard to get, so I want to spend that money that we got.
Yes.
So help us spend that money, because we have it available. If you've got properties where those tests are required, get a hold of Wade, and let's get down there and
I've got one under contract.
let's get that money spent.
And it's really we have to send something to the EPA to see if it's eligible. It takes like a week or two, and the guys are already hired. We don't have to go out to bid, so they generally can do the work. So like within a couple weeks, you can almost. It's not like a typical EPA governmental project where you're sitting there for 6 months or a year. So it's a pretty fast turnaround.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew? Andrew has a presentation for us.
I'll start off with just a few words first, and we'll shine the light in everybody's eyes over here and let you see the slides. But my name is Andrew Hayes. I'm the Director of Public Works. Mayor Gradisar hired me about a year ago, February 1st of last year, to come in and fill a vacant seat in the Public Works Department. 10 minutes into my first day of work, he laid down the gauntlet. He handed me a citizen survey that contained data from the previous 10 years or so, showing progressively higher levels of dissatisfaction with the condition of our roads. It said, fix this. So I have a pretty good challenge in front of me. But we are working through a number of means to try to address road issues in Pueblo. The specific topic I was asked to come talk about was Main and Union downtown. So we've got a master plan that was developed over the 2020 and 2021 that was approved by City Council. We are working to collect the last of the funding required to execute that project. But I want to show some slides of that area and give you an idea of what that project is going to mean for that core area of our city. Revitalization and infill development is a big priority here, and so this is a project that supports those objectives. Just for awareness, Public Works, not only do we do streets and right-of-way, we're also working very, very closely with planning and all the other city infrastructure departments in trying to coordinate development efforts for the city and for everybody here in the room. We also manage condemned properties when they are referred to the city. If those condemned properties are not taken care of by the property owner and the city has to do something, those come back into our office as well. We also operate a recycling center, so our solid waste program is designed to divert waste streams from the landfills. So we've got a wide variety of different things that we take care of, but everything from streets, transportation, signals, striping, signs, pavements, concrete, sidewalks, demoed houses, all of those things are kind of the various programs that Public Works manages. So this is one small piece, but and of that small piece, I want to talk to you about this one very important project. But I'll show you some slides here. Everybody can see okay, little tiny words in the back? So I'll talk through this a little bit, and please stop me along the way if you've got a question about it. But the idea of this map here is to show the extent of our Main and Union Master Plan area. So that particular section starts up here at the north end. This is City Center. Down here is Arriendo. So the library is the anchor here at the south end. There's a Vector Bank office in this building just up here at the north end for reference, for anybody who's not totally familiar. But essentially, it includes areas along Union and Main. There's a limited work on some of the cross streets in the middle, but that's kind of the extent of where this project area is going to cover. The next few slides kind of break things up into Union, and so it shows kind of an overview of the various sections from an overview, and then we've got some renderings showing what it will look like if you're walking down the street, both in an existing condition and a future condition in the master plan. So Union up here kind of starts up here at the, this is the Union Bridge back here. Library is right in this area, right? So Union Bridge will come down, and you can see that there's 2 traffic lanes on here. Currently Union is 4, but it's designed here to increase pedestrian mobility and bicycle access also into downtown to create a more pedestrian-friendly and a more attractive environment for people to come visit, stay, eat, shop, and enjoy the downtown environment. So going through into downtown again, we're moving from what would be generally south to north as we go to the right here. So you can see there are some changes to intersections here where we improve pedestrian crossings. We have a plan that includes narrowing the street down again to this 2-lane facility, but it widens the sidewalks and provides those shop owners with additional space for sidewalk cafes, open space for events, seating, room for the public to come out and enjoy the space. Landscaping is going to be improved. There's still parking on the street. The bike lanes in this particular area turn from actual bike lanes over on this far left, you can see the green stripe lane, to what we call a sharrow. They're a shared lane. The idea is to bring the traffic speeds down to where it's comfortable for both cyclists and motorists to share the road in that environment. Again, with the stop signs in this intersection, or in the intersections here, it'll slow that traffic down and allow for freedom of movement for bicycles and cars in the same area. So continuing still further to the north, you can see the same general scheme. As we get up here to the Riverwalk, the road widens back out to accommodate the turning movements out here onto Grand, and ultimately out here on City Center as well. Okay. So this is just a rendering kind of the existing condition. This is Union Avenue from B to C Street. You kind of see how we've got what I refer to as a 3-lane facility with parking. It does have bike lanes. Anybody ridden a bike or one of those bird scooters on this street? It's pretty exciting when somebody opens their car door in front of you. So part of the design here will be to kind of eliminate some of that, but we're going to still have parking, but it'll have that shared lane, so it's going to give a little bit more space for folks to be able to get out of the way of the car door, give people room to maneuver and feel a little bit more free in this area. That's existing. This is the vision of what's to come. So between B and C, again, this shared bicycle lane marking, this sharrow marking kind of designates, again, this is a shared bike and roadway. Still have some parking on the streets, but it is much nicer in terms of landscaping, wider sidewalks, and again, that expanded use of that space to make it a more attractive place for folks to visit. This is a look from on Union again, from B Street to C Street in existing condition. Again, the narrow sidewalks, they've been okay, but we've got some limited landscaping, parking, and again, the bicyclist here who has just narrowly avoided the car door opening. Again, using that same pavement width to accommodate traffic flows and bicyclists and make this more pedestrian friendly. That's the goal of this, this project in this area. So again, at full build out, that particular view looks a little bit different. More seating, sidewalk cafes in this particular case. So there's quite a bit of room there for people to enjoy. So now flip over to Main Street, just to the, it's kind of in a diagonal part of town. So this is to the south and east of Union, right? Starting again up here at the Main Street Bridge that goes over the railroad tracks and the river. Same story, we've got bike lanes, but it's still a 4-lane facility until we get down to C Street over here over the bridge. So same orientation, we have started back at the bridge, we were working our way back to the north again. In this particular case, we've maintained bicycle lanes that are dedicated. The traffic that would have maybe used Union primarily as a primary through route, the idea is to provide make this more of a thoroughfare. So the bicycle lanes still are a part of the plan on Main Street as we go forward, but it's going to look more like what Union did in terms of that 3-lane facility. 2 lanes plus that center turn lane, and then room for turning movements at the various intersections as we go. So this also involves some improved pedestrian crossings. Right now there is one that goes across over here between D Street and Allen Hamel. That'll get improved over here to allow some safer and improved pedestrian access, some medians, restriping, and some other things on this street. Most of the project cost and resources are going to be focused on improving the Union side, but to accommodate the change in traffic flows and still provide adequate bicycle facilities, there are obviously improvements that need to be made on Main as well. So this will address some of those concerns. And progressing all the way over again from, I believe that's D. Nope, that's Allen Hamel there on the left. Right here, so Grand and Allen Hamel. This was Richmond Avenue way back, but this is a parking garage across from the convention center. And as the road curves, it hits City Center at this intersection right here. That's the orientation. But again, improved pedestrian access, still remains some on-street parking. We've got lots of parking facilities that are a little underutilized, so folks that are concerned about not being able to park, there is plenty. You may have to go to a parking garage or a parking lot, a surface parking lot, but there's going to be plenty of that for folks coming to access downtown as well.
Pueblo, we only walk 1 block.
That's right, I'm aware. I've been told. So, I mentioned I've been here in Pueblo for a year. My wife is a Pueblo native. We've been coming to Pueblo for 25 years, and I've enjoyed watching Pueblo grow as an outsider. But it's exciting to be here kind of watching this. And the dynamics of Pueblo, as you mentioned, 1 block walk, or traffic is horrible.
You can't get out of your car and walk into the front of the building. You've gone too far.
It's too far, right? So, again, this kind of concludes the Main Street piece. So the renderings are kind of the same. Again, this existing condition, currently a 5-lane facility, limited on-street parking in some places, but we've got that center turn lane and 2 travel lanes for traffic. That's existing condition. And again, the idea is here again to provide a little bit more room for the bicycles to make them have a thoroughfare rather than stop in the Union corridor. And again, to provide the improved pedestrian accesses across, make those safer and improve that for everybody walking in that area. And that's it.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's a vision of what's to come. Again, this is our master plan. So the design effort is pending start here once we collect the last of these funds. The project is approximately $8 million across all of the various sub-projects that need to be done, and it's being funded from 3 different sources. The city is providing a large chunk. CDOT has provided a $2 million multimodal fund grant, and also we've got money from the County 1A ballot initiative that is going to be supporting this project as well. And so once all those funds are completed, we'll be able to start the design phase and ultimately construction. Idea is that the design would be worked in 23, and that the construction would start in late 23 and maybe go into 24. And I'll take any questions you've got if there are any.
Sit back up here. Sure, answer questions.
Thank you.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
So you said that you have the money, just to about have all the money for that project. I wanted to know, because I know I'm gonna have a client ask me, if they buy a commercial property on Union Avenue, are they going to be expected to put in for those sidewalks and stuff?
Right, so that's a great question, right? So when a developer normally comes in to build or develop a property, they're responsible for providing the public improvements along with that. In this particular case, this is all funded as part of that project. So the sidewalk improvements are there. Undoubtedly, during that time, there's going to be some interruptions, right? And so we will work with property owners and business owners along the way there to maintain access, to make sure it's safe. But there are certainly construction considerations that are going to impact things along that route during construction. But the end product and the vision of what's there is going to make that a completely different feel from what it is now, and hopefully make that a much more attractive place to stay, not just pass through. We want that to be one of our core anchors here in the center of downtown.
Cool. That's good.
Yes, sir?
Have you gotten pretty good response from the landowners or the building owners down there?
Also a good question. So during the development of the master plan, it was a very public process, and there was a ton of feedback that was brought in, particularly from those immediately impacted property owners in that area. Both business and residential folks participated in that process. And so their input is represented in the outcome of this master plan.
So you're encouraging restaurants to get out on the street then, or on the...
There is space for that.
Yeah.
And again, to make this a more pedestrian-friendly and more inviting place, there are a number of uses that wider sidewalk could accommodate. But that's one idea there for folks with restaurants to be able to provide increased seating for our lovely weather. maybe not August, but or December. Sir?
When's the next meeting?
Next meeting for, I apologize.
When's the next meeting to just go over feedback from
Gotcha.
owners and?
So again, we're right in the middle of the phase where we have finished the master plan that's been approved by City Council already. The design phase of the project will start, and the basis of design is obviously the work that went into the master plan. We're not, I guess, in a place where we are actively working on that design at the moment until those funds are there to issue a design contract. But at some point, there will be feedback on the not only the design itself, but again, the construction impacts and other work that might be going on in that area downtown. It's not done. We just aren't there yet. Yes, ma'am.
Couple things. One, is this slideshow available to us on any of your sites?
So this master plan is available. I can provide a link to that so you can view that electronically. It's more than just these slides. There's certainly a bunch of narrative and other tables that you didn't want to probably see here. But for deeper review, absolutely, we can provide that.
And the other thing is that I've been on the board for the Conservancy District for 11 years. And we're doing a pedestrian bridge, our second pedestrian bridge, which I know you're aware of,
Right.
down by Maine. Have you got any slides in this slideshow that I think are fine that show how people have access down off of Maine?
I don't know that this
Or will there be
specifically
any?
addresses that.
Okay.
So there's the